Now I'm going to talk about some fallacies you won't want to fall into as a game designer. I've talked about these at various times in the class. Here's a list, and I'll just go through each one briefly so you're aware of it, starting with the supposed to be played fallacy. Sometimes people will play a game and somebody will do something the designer didn't anticipate. Well, the designer says that's not the way it's supposed to be played, and he ignores this as a playtest result. And that's the problem, ignoring the result. Because if a game can be played a certain way and it works, somebody's going to do it. If it's a video game and the programming doesn't do what the designer intends, and that allows the players to do something not intended, then the programming has to be fixed. If playing it not the way it's supposed to be played ruins the game, you will be sorry because people will do it and then they will complain, so you've got to fix it. Now the result isn't always bad. An example of something that people figured out in games after games had been published that was never intended by the designer is rocket jumping. You jump and then you shoot a rocket behind you to give you an extra boost so you can get to places you couldn't otherwise get. Well, the game allows that, and maybe the game designer would like to say that's not the way it's supposed to be played, but if the game allows it, people are going to do it once they figure it out. And of course, this is a big problem for designers because no matter how much the game is play tested before it's published, after it's published, an awful lot more people play it, and they're going to discover things that weren't discovered during the play testing. Story fallacy. In most games, a story is an excuse to get to the action. And yet an awful lot of people who think that they're budding game designers really are talking about stories, not games. And when they describe their game, they actually tell a story. They don't describe a game at all. Games are mechanics and rules. Stories may be expressed, but the game works because of the mechanics, or doesn't work because of the mechanics. All games have narratives, which is to say, well, I played this game and this happened and that happened and the other thing happened. But few games have formal stories imposed by the designer, where you have characters and plot and climaxes and so on, the same as you would in a novel or a play or a movie. Games are not, at least not yet, a good medium for story. The idea is the game fallacy. I've talked about this at great length in an earlier lecture, so I'll just repeat again. Ideas are a dime a dozen. Everyone has them. Likely hundreds of people have had the same idea. It's probably not a very good idea anyway. Execution is more important, though a game beginning with a poor idea is not likely to turn out to be a good game. People are interested in complete games, not in ideas. The game is just data. That's a fallacy. Games in general have both a system side and a psychological side. If the game is all system, then it's a puzzle. I was struck by Brenda Brathwaite remarking once that computer role-playing games were just spreadsheets. Well, I don't think that's true at all, because there's a lot of psychology involved, even if the player is the only player involved. Certainly when there's more than one player involved, there's a great deal of psychology. And where there's human opposition, psychological becomes very important. There's much more than data or mechanics. So the idea that a computer role-playing game is just spreadsheets is not much different from the notion that a game is just mechanics, or that a game is all math. Puzzles perhaps, but not games. Self-indulgence. Some people can design games to indulge themselves and get away with it, but most people end up with poor games. Game designers have to be self-critical. Above all else, they have to avoid self-indulgence. There's also the perfect game fallacy, that you can design a game that's perfect. Well, given the vast variety of tastes amongst game players, this is impossible. And even if you could somehow design a game that everybody liked, tastes change. So no matter what you do, some people are going to like your game, some people are not. We hope you'll never design a game that's so bad that nobody likes it. Some games, inevitably, most people will not like because of the nature of the game, and most people don't like that kind of game. Nowadays, on the tabletop side, most people simply will not play a game that lasts more than 2 or 3 hours. If you design a game that lasts 6 hours, then you've already lost most of the potential market. But as I said, tastes change, and I'll give you an example from another form of art, music. In the 19th century, there was a composer named Louis Spohr. I have in my life, and I listen to classical music a lot, heard perhaps 2 or 3 works by Louis Spohr. But when I looked him up, I discovered that while he was alive, he was regarded as a great master in the same sort of category as Beethoven. Well, taste must have changed because Louis Spohr is very obscure now. That's what happens, tastes change. Bach even, at one time, was virtually unknown. And I've already mentioned the math fallacy. And I think the math fallacy that all games are math is wishful thinking by game players and game designers who don't want to deal with other people. But really, it's about puzzles much more than about games.